Hello and welcome to another edition of the Wrap Up. Another trade deadline special for you. One of at least three because we'll have another one. In case you're new to this, we already had a big Raptors trade deadline special that we posted on the Raptors Republic YouTube channel a few days ago. We're going to go live on Thursday at the actual trade deadline at 2 p.m. to kind of react to all the live trades that are happening. But right now I have Aiden Moss and Kyle Brickman with me, and we are going to just kind of react to some of the early trades that have happened in the NBA today and yesterday, because there have been some blockbusters and it's been a really fun deadline so far. And we want to talk about, first of all, just those trades, what we think of them. And then second of all, how do they influence what the Raptors do at the deadline? Because several teams that have been dealing were potential suitors for the Raptors. So certain guys have been taken off the table. Certain guys have maybe been put on the table with things like the Bradley Beal injury hurting the Wizard season. So first of all, Kyle, go to you because Aiden's drinking. How's your day been, man? How you guys
It's
doing?
good. It's good. I'm curious to see how many people hop on here with it's a good test of our influence because it was like what 10 minutes of warning before we even decided to do this. So I think if you're in the live comments, it's all you today, guys. Like your comment is guaranteed to be read today.
We're gonna figure out what people are doing at Tuesday at 5 p.m. once and for all.
This is
Aiden?
like an employment check for Raptors fans. Like see who's unemployed and who is.
Yeah. Aiden, you enjoy your orange?
Loved my orange. Had a tomato and mayo sandwich. I'm good to go.
Oh, sorry, we have to talk about that. That's it. That's all that's in the sandwich.
Tomato, onion, lettuce,
Oh,
mayo.
okay. Thank you.
Boom.
That's a lot better. That is a lot better.
Yeah, nice and fresh.
Okay. So we're going to start off talking about, before we get into some of the trades that already happened, we're going to start off talking about some of the latest rumors about the Raptors heading into this trade deadline, just to make sure that everyone is caught up. And so this is Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report, and he talks about the Raptors twice in this kind of roundup. And so one of the things he says is that the Raptors are one of the team that has been mentioned as Turner suitors. The Pacers are demanding multiple first-round picks, and that has been the case with Turner. Obviously, we're going to get to the Domantas Sabonis trade, so the Turner thing seems less and less likely. I don't know if any of you guys have thoughts on Turner or if you want to just wait. Maybe we should just wait. Let's talk about the other part of this Raptors targets here. So, again, he says Miles Turner, Daniel Tice he mentions, Jakob Poeltl he mentions. But the other thing he mentioned, and I'm not even sure if I have the right piece up, is no, I don't think I do have the right piece up, is Danilo Gallinari from the Hawks. And I can try to find that piece. But basically the framework would be Goran Dragic's contract for Danilo Gallinari's contract, which is this year it's about similar money, 18 million. And then next year it's a partially guaranteed contract. So you assume that the Raptors wouldn't have to give up a lot besides Dragic for Gallinari, who is obviously a good three-point shooter, bad defender, another 6'9" guy to throw into this mix. Aiden, what do you think about Gallinari's fit on the Raptors?
It makes no sense to me from every perspective. Like, one, he is 6'9", but he doesn't fit any other part of the profile that the Raptors accumulate when it comes to 6'9" guys. Two, why is Atlanta taking Goran Dragic? Is he really that much of an upgrade over Wright? Because he certainly isn't defensively. And I think at least with Wright and Young, Wright can make up for Young's like really poor defense. I don't think either want to help each other out because they're both competing to get into those, that bottom tier. Well, right now it could be upper tier for us, but they're competing. So none of this really makes sense to me. I don't think he actually helps the Raptors all that much unless you want to run a second unit through him, which has kind of been why I've talked about Nurkic. If you're going to go for Nurkic, is to run a separate style of offense through a certain guy who is good in certain situations. But like, in any scenario, I would not want Gallo on our team. If Atlanta is trying to offload him, that should be an indicator enough that we actually don't need him or want him.
Yeah, to me, I don't know if I'm all the way there. I'm fine with this as like it's 259 on Thursday and there are no other Dragic suitors and the only other option is buying him out. I'm 100% on board with this, but I guess I'm with you in that like this is sort of the last ditch scenario, ideally for the Raptors. And uh, like I get that the fit isn't perfect. I get that he isn't like he's not only is he not a switchable defender, like you got to be able to guard at least one position, which he can't. He can't guard his own position. He's too slight to guard centers, and he's way too slow footed to guard wings. So like he's kind of in no man's land there. I get it, but he's a knockdown shooter. Has been for like a proven history of being a knockdown shooter. He's like what he's been in the league for, I guess like 12 seasons, something like that, quite a while. Been a knockdown shooter every year. At the end of the day, like these are the type of guys you need to fill out the end of a bench. I'm not saying this is like a rotation piece ideally, but as a guy who's going to be the eighth man, ninth man, I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think, well, I'm with both of you. I think if this is the worst case scenario of what you can get for Dragic, then I would do it. And the reason is here's his contract. So he's making 21 million next year, but it puts the Raptors in a good position to do the same thing next year with another expiring contract. And maybe it goes better than the Dragic situation went. And he actually has some value as an expiring. And if he doesn't, then he's just another contract to trade with a first round pick. Try this all again next, off deadline, because you need those contracts to grease the wheels, as Bobby Webster said today. So there's some value there, but yeah, like he would provide some depth off the bench, but I'm not sure he plays over Chris Boucher the way Chris Boucher is playing right now. I'm not sure he plays over Precious Achua. And so I don't really see where all the minutes are coming from him. Like the shooting would definitely be helpful, but I don't think the fit is very perfect at all. And yeah, I mean, like I said, if that's the best thing or the only thing you can get for Dragic and you don't have to give up other assets, then fine, but it's not an exciting thing.
I
Can I
definitely
ask
did.
you?
Sorry,
Oh,
one thing is I definitely didn't consider this in like what you said or what James is saying about like the strategic side of this contractually. But I'm just looking at this as like I'm assuming going into the trade deadline, we're trying to do the best we can to make this roster playoff deep. And from that perspective, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I do like everything else aside, contract stuff aside, just purely basketball wise. I'm down to see Gallo over like Banton in the rotation though. Like guys like
Yeah.
that. It's not a
Yeah.
Chris Boucher thing, but it's
That's
like
not
I
playoffs
prefer,
basketball, but yeah.
yeah, but I prefer Gallo. But I mean, yes and no. Even if it's not playoff basketball, like still the next 2 months of basketball, if Gallo means that Pascal is playing like 36 minutes tonight instead of 40, that's a huge bonus to the Raptors. So I don't know.
Can
Yeah,
Gallo be your five? Sorry.
That's what I was kind of going there. Like I think he might be. I think he is like the five in those. I think you could really make like a Siakam, Gallo, OG, Freddie, and then like take your pick of Scotty or Gary line of work like pretty well. That's a lot of spacing, and that's enough defense on the rest of the floor to really make up for his deficiencies on that end. So
Okay.
I don't
I'm a
know.
little more swayed.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like he's not the guy who's gonna guard traditional fives. Like OG would do that, or Siakam, I think, in those lineups. But you're amalgamating a five, just like they've been doing all season. And like you said, he helps a lot with the spacing. It's just that he's old and that he's making a ton of money, and that you are taking on some risk if you take on that contract, because there's a chance he doesn't fit with Nurse's system. There's a chance he can't rotate nearly quick enough for what Nurse has. And then he's just another Goran Dragic where he's sitting on the sidelines next season waiting for a trade. So there's some risk there, but it's not too bad. I don't think the risk.
I also think that it's not even a risk that he can't rotate. It's a certainty that he can't. Let's be realistic here. It's not.
And Buddy Hield.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to talk about some of the big trades that have happened in the NBA, and we're going to just react to these trades, what we think of them, and also react to how it affects the Raptors going into Thursday's deadline. So the first big one well, other than the Norman Powell trade, which we talked about on the show, A, and B, just I don't think sets the market because it was such a ridiculously lopsided trade that like it's really hard to glean anything from it. This one to me was the first real trade that we're going to talk about, and it's Caris LeVert for basically 2 bad first round picks is the way I would say, because they're giving a second, they're receiving a second, those cancel each other out. So, you know, Cleveland is giving Indiana their first round pick this season, lottery protected, should be fine. And then Houston's second round pick, which is going to be like 32, 33. So basically 2 bad first round picks, more or less, for Caris LeVert. What did you guys think about this trade? And what did you think about the kind of market it set for a player like Caris LeVert? And I'll go to you first, Kyle.
Yeah, Aiden and I are going to disagree pretty seriously here. I kind of hated this for the Cavs. I get that, like, he's an improvement on the team now, but you're giving up a pick that's likely in the early to mid 20s and a pick in the 30s for a player in Caris LeVert that can't shoot very well, is constantly injured, has like injury problems beyond like the normal level of injury problems. Like he has like organ issues, which is like that's the type of stuff that you don't mess around with. On top of that,
don't bring his organs into this.
Yeah,
man.
come on, that's a low point, man.
No, I'm just saying
that's a kidney shot.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think he's I don't think he's part of Cleveland's best starting 5. And in general, if you're Cleveland, what's the rush? Your 3 best players are all under 25. You're not going anywhere like deep this year, with Caris LeVert or without Caris LeVert. He doesn't really move the needle for me. So, I
would say the Raptors are in a similar position, and
Yeah,
we all
exactly.
want them to buy. You know what I mean? Like, we're also a young team that's not getting a championship this year.
Well, we're much older than them, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, we might be by like the whatever average age metric, but like our core, Fred's in his late 20s, Siakam's in his late 20s. Like those guys, I'm with Cleveland. Like their 2 best players are Garland and Mobley, who are in their early 20s. So like I what's the rush?
Allen's probably better than Mobley right now, but that's an aside. Let me see how old Jared Allen is.
I think he's 22.
Yeah,
23.
He's like,
wow, 23.
He's under 25. So that's what I mean. Their 3 best players are all under 25. And they're making a move for LeVert, who is, I believe, in his late 20s. Yeah, 27. Not a good 3-point shooter. I don't know. I'm really relieved the Raptors avoided this.
I was anti-LeVert to Raptors anyway, so I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I understand where it's coming from. It's like you can only collect so many picks. I think Cleveland's got a lot of young guys that they're trying to like hone, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with Sexton as well now. But I think they want to make a push, and like I think the logic checks out the same way Toronto's logic is that like the East is pretty topsy-turvy right now, and that could all calcify in a moment's notice, right? So you just kind of have to take advantage of your opportunities when you can. Cleveland has been so shit for so long that I understand why Gilbert would push this more quickly than like the most patient ownership. And if LeVert changes the way he plays, which I think when you go into a winning team, that can sometimes happen. It could turn out to be a really good addition.
Yeah, you sound like part of the Ringer squad mentioning owners and GMs here just by a first name basis. I think this is one of the trades, and this is a common theme for actually me with this trade deadline. Like, people love to freak out on Twitter. I think a lot of these trades have been kind of good for both sides, and I think that's the case with this one. Like, Cleveland was desperate to get another ball handler with all their injuries. And I think LeVert's fit there is about as good as it is anywhere in the league. And I think, they have an abundance of pick. That this Houston pick was obviously an additional one. So they overpaid a little bit to get a player who they like and who's going to help them right away, still relatively young. But I do think the Sexton thing is interesting. Are they going to re-sign Sexton and keep LeVert? That doesn't make sense to me. So maybe this would make more sense to me if they move off of Sexton before the deadline.
Yeah.
But in general, I think this is kind of a win-win. I think it makes Cleveland better, and I don't think they gave anything crazy to 2 bad first-round picks.
You know who the real loser is in all of this? Houston. Just like this just makes that Oladipo LeVert swap like really stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't want in on Jared Allen. I want to ask, like,
Right.
This, while we're on the topic, might as well talk about Miles Turner in Indiana. Does Sabonis is out of there if we want to like bring up that trade. So
yeah, let's go to this. Let's go to the Sabonis trade and then.
Okay, let me bring it up.
Where do you want to do CJ first?
No, we should
do. Okay, we can do Sabonis. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess the question would be: does this affect, like, Indiana essentially blowing this up? Does that affect how they're going to deal with Miles Turner going forward? Are they going to be looking to move Miles Turner because they're blowing the team up? They're initiating a rebuild, or are they clearing out the front court so Miles Turner is the guy there like he wanted to be and the reason he wanted to be traded in the first place?
Well, Woj did have a tweet, and you have to take these things.
Yeah, he's a PR.
It's PR. Like not entirely true, but he did have a tweet that Miles Turner is happy to stay there and to have a bigger role now that Sabonis is gone. I definitely think this reduces the chance that Turner is dealt. Obviously, if someone comes with a Godfather offer, they're going to still trade Miles Turner because they're not trying to win right now.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't think they're not desperate to trade Miles Turner like they maybe were before this trade. And I think that has significant ramifications for a Raptors point of view, because I think there was a world where the Pacers were desperate to get off of one of these two centers, and then they dealt Turner for like a meh package of Flynn, a first-round pick, and an expiring. That I really don't think is happening anymore. So yeah, we can react to that. So Aiden, what do you think about the Miles Turner thing? You think he's staying or you think he's going?
Well, that was my reaction when I saw the trade. Was like, oh, well, my first reaction was like, okay, Turner is going to go, and then, and then I followed that thought up with like, oh, wait a second, this opens everything up for Turner to do what he wants to do. Turner's only 25. He turns 26 at the end of March, so he's actually still in the same kind of window that Duarte and Howley would be in. So, and I think Brogdon's 27, Hield's 27, 28. So it's like it's not like you have a bunch of 30-year-olds where you need to just tear this down and get as much back as you can. Like there's no reason to test this out. Like some of the viewers have said, like he's injured, so his value is probably lower. So it makes sense to wait in the offseason. His value was really low last offseason. So I think it's like, why not wait till he comes back and see how it all looks? He's a pretty ideal center when he's the only big on the floor, because he is big, he can block shots, and he can shoot the three. He's not the best big, but like for what he's getting paid, I think he becomes more valuable to Indiana than he was before.
Yeah, I think they're going to at least try it out and see with what they have in Turner. Before we react to the other side of this deal and what it means for the Raptors with the Kings trading for a center, we will get to that. But Kyle, what are your thoughts on this trade? Because regardless of the Raptors' perspective, this is just a really interesting trade. It's not Jeremy Lamb twice. It's actually what's his name? Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and Sabonis for Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson, which is salary filler. What do you think about this trade? Who won?
Who won? The Pacers. Pacers won by like a huge margin. I think Halliburton is like, last game Halliburton played, he's been injured. The last game he played, the Kings won, and he had 17 assists. He was with Fox out. So this is essentially the Kings making a decision between Fox and Halliburton. With Fox out, I don't know the exact stats, but Halliburton was like absolutely eating. He was having the best stretch of his career without De'Aaron Fox. It's just another embarrassing move by the Kings organization. I actually think for the Pacers, I will float this idea. They're setting up a roster with a lot of spacing, a lot of nice switchable players, a lot of secondary ball handlers, almost as if It's like the perfect fit for, I don't know, let's say hypothetically, what if there was like a point forward on the market who was incredible defensively, can't shoot at all, is mocked in the press about not being able to shoot, wants out of his situation. I don't know, like a Ben Simmons type player. I think this is the Ben Simmons team, and I think they've set up a roster that's going to suit Ben Simmons so well. Think about the shooting, the space on the floor, the team defense that these guys could play. I'm kind of in on it. Like
You're talking about the Pacers, right?
So it's
The
a Hallie.
yeah.
Is that a Hallie and Brogdon for Simmons? Is that what we're talking about here?
I think it would probably be some combination of like Brogdon plus
Field.
a whole bunch of picks to a third team, like Brogdon to Philadelphia, a whole bunch of picks to a third team, another piece going to Philly. I can't imagine. I think Halliburton is more valuable than Simmons straight up. I mean, that might be a hot take.
That's such an NBA hipster thing.
He's good. He's really good. But in general, I do think Indiana is setting himself up for a Ben Simmons push here. And I'm not sure they'd want to give up Halliburton in that deal, but who knows? Oren's left us. Aiden,
we lost Oren. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, this is a win for Sacramento, right? Or for Indiana, has to be, right?
Yeah, it is. I think I like Fox a lot. I'm a pretty big fan. I think he's suffered, and I think part of that is Sacramento is like a hellhole that sucks your soul dry, and that you never want to play basketball again. I happen to have Fox and Sabonis in my dynasty, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how they work together. I don't know how well. It's almost like Halliburton would have been the better pairing with Sabonis. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Tristan and Hield. Like that, those would be guys that I could see them flipping for like younger dudes. I like Sabonis as a player. Is Vlade Divac still there?
Yeah.
No? I don't think
he is. I think he's still their GM.
I'm not sure. I know.
Or did he step aside to like Joe
Dumars? He did step aside. I think after the whole Luka draft, he was done. No, he is.
It's okay. That's okay, guys. We don't talk about
Vlade Divac.
Vlade
Divac is a great tutor for Domas Sabonis. Like he's his predecessor, really. So,
oh yeah, I didn't even take that in.
I think, and yeah, so that would explain why Vlade's got a hard on for Sabonis, right?
Yeah.
And I think Sabonis is a great player. I really do. I just don't know that the Kings is the right spot for him. Like, there's no real spacing. Barnes is as a 4 and Sabonis as a 5 makes sense. But you have Holmes, you have Bagley, you have like Mitchell. Like just none of this. The roster composition does not work with Sabonis suddenly landing there.
Yeah, I think this trade is a lot more even than a lot of people are making it out to be, and that's because, like you, Aiden, I really like Fox, and I think Sabonis is really good. Most of the time, when you judge a trade, you say who's the best player, and I think we'd all agree that the Kings got the best player. Sabonis is better than Tyrese right now, but Tyrese is 21 years old, and so to bet on, I understand why people are so high on him, and like his trajectory in this league since he entered it, he was really good from the start. He's just gotten better, and I totally understand the kind of consensus being that the Kings got fleeced here, and I do think that the Kings are a terribly run organization, so this isn't going to work out well for them. But at the same time, just as a value play, I don't think it's the worst trade in the world that everyone's making it out to be. Like, so they got the best player in the deal. Sabonis, I think, with a team built around him, could be really, really good. But at the same time, yeah, like Halliburton and Buddy Hield, considering their age and contracts, I would agree that the Pacers won this one.
I'd say the real mistake on the part of the Kings is drafting Fox, following that up by drafting Halliburton, and then following that up by drafting Davion Mitchell this year. It's just like
the Davion Mitchell pick never made sense to me.
You're overloading your team at a specific spot that like isn't even the meta of the league right now. I don't get, like, it's one thing when it's the Raptors where it's like you're getting a bunch of wings and tweeners, like that's fine. You cannot play like those three guards at the same time. Even if Davion Mitchell, like I don't care how hard he tries, he can't guard a three. So I don't know. But
Okay,
we should talk about
let me get
the
to the other side of this, which I think you were getting at, which is that the Kings traded for a center, and they already have Richaun Holmes on their roster. And yes, they dumped Tristan Thompson, but that was salary filler. Nobody cares. They also have Marvin Bagley on their roster. You know, Sabonis just got traded from a place where they were done trying to play him alongside another center. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, the Kings are dumb. Maybe they just think that it can work together, but this feels very much to me like Richaun Holmes could be on the move by Thursday. And given that it's the Kings, I mean, what do you guys think about, you know, from a Raptors perspective, Richaun Holmes? What do you think it would take to get him from the Kings now? Whoever wants.
The problem is that the asset the Raptors are trying to move most is the asset, like this plays the exact same position that the Kings like were just forced into trading away because they were overloaded that position. That's Goran Dragic at the guard spot. So, I mean, most of the trades the Raptors have been floated have been like Goran Dragic plus a first round pick. But the Kings.
What about Boucher? Would they want Boucher?
I mean, I guess they must be trying to make a push, right? So
He would
maybe
make sense with Boner for sure.
Yeah. I think that pairing definitely makes sense. But I would say that Richaun Holmes is definitely the odd man out. We were talking about it a little bit earlier. I don't think Richaun and Sabonis can coexist at all. I don't think Richaun Holmes is being paid that much to be a bench player, and I also don't think he's interested. Like he barely wanted to be in Sacramento in the first place. He had a whole free agency run. Basically didn't get the offer he was looking for and bowed out. I'm sure he'd be happy to get out of town. He probably has already spoken to his agent about it, if I had to guess.
But on that note, like he could have gone to Toronto. I guess he wanted to get cash, or was Toronto not willing to pay him enough? Because it seems like if Toronto really wanted Holmes, they could have grabbed him. So it's like, was that because they were banking on Precious being a little bit more along than he is, or do they just actually not have interest in Holmes?
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think they just valued Precious as an asset more than they valued Holmes. I think they were just really in love with Precious.
I agree, and it's not just Precious; it's also Goran. Like, even though this has worked out about as bad as it could have for the Raptors, they still have this expiring, and it seems like there's value for it. So I think the combination of Precious and Goran, they valued more than spending in free agency. I don't think that means that they are out on Richaun Holmes. And not to name drop, but we talked to Bobby Webster today. He said two important things. One was that they are not all in on this wing lineup. They wanted to give it a look, but they're not out on centers, he basically said. Like, and two, I asked him, how willing are you to take on money beyond this season? Because that's something they've been shy to do in years past. And we're looking at Richaun Holmes' contract, and I think a lot of fans are probably worrying, like, would the Raptors really want to take on 4 years, right? It's reasonable, but it is 4 years. But Bobby said that, like, his words were, that's exactly the type of contract we're looking to get off Goran's for, is a multi-year deal where you are basically taking on money and therefore not giving up the same kind of assets. And that's why, like, I genuinely feel like, given everything that's happened today, and this would not have been my opinion prior to today, but given everything that happened, Richaun Holmes is probably like my number one most realistic target for the Raptors.
Yeah, I think I'm with that. If you want to bring up the Raptors salary cap table on Spot Track right now, I like the total table for the team.
Okay.
I just want to point out, like, people are worried about taking on money for the Raptors. As long as Siakam and Fred are around, there's like those are two max slots that are 100% filled. It would take so much maneuvering to even open up any space for someone in free agency beyond like the MLE, the mid-level exception. They shouldn't be concerned, and they aren't. They remain unconcerned about cap room going forward, because like they're as when you have two max players on the roster and OG's, you know, mid-teen salary and Gary's mid-teen salary, etc., you're capped out for the next little bit. Like they're capped with this core, and that's not a bad thing. This core is potential, but who cares about Richaun Holmes or 4 years, or if they want to take on Miles Turner, or if they want to move Goran to the Mavericks and take on Dwight Powell next year. That's not a concern for them.
Yeah, and I think I don't think Richaun Holmes' price is going to be more than Chris Boucher and a lottery protected first round pick, or Goran and a lottery protected first round pick. And I would do either of those deals, like straight up, because I also think there's a world in which Richaun doesn't necessarily fit the Raptors long term, but his contract is even more valuable after a year or two on this team, because 2 years of Richaun at like 20 or at like 10 mil a year after the Raptors maybe build him up a little bit, build up the value. So it's not like there's a ton of risk involved here, even though it's 4 years. You can always flip a guy like this. Yeah, so Aiden, I was saying, like, do you think Richaun is like one of the most likely Raptors targets considering everything that's happened?
I'm just not sure. I was just trying to look up his size. Does anybody know what 2.08 meters is in feet?
That's like 6'10" ish.
Yeah, he's like 6'10", 6'11".
I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not sold on the. First of all, the problem is even though we get rid of Boucher, which is the one big. I'm assuming you're trading Boucher. Is that what you're doing?
Probably.
So he's the one big that actually plays small. It's like now we have Holmes and Birch, who are basically, Birch is like a stunted Holmes, and then we have Precious. You know, like it doesn't really work on our roster, unless there's other moves. So like, I dig him, but I just don't know that he moves the meter like we want to. But for 10 mil a year, fuck it. Like you can't really complain with that. Like that's a really good value.
Yeah. I think he would move the needle. I just think his push shot is really valuable. I think he can defend in different schemes. He's not only a drop guy, he can play some different coverages. And as a rim runner, he would just really, as a screen setter and a rim runner, you know, like in a playoff situation, if he's taking the Precious / Chem minutes, I think they're a markedly better team. So that's kind of what it is for me.
That's true. I do agree with that. It's just,
but yeah, losing Boucher would hurt. Yeah.
But then we have like Birch coming off the bench, and it's like, I just feel like that really, Boucher and Birch give us a lot of dynamism in our roster lineups. Like we can deploy certain kind of groups at certain times.
I think an ideal trade then might be like Birch and a first round pick.
Yeah. If I'm just upgrading Birch, I am all in on that 100,000%. Let's do that.
What
I'd
about
probably take Yuta too, I think.
But
yeah, I was going to say, first of all, I'm not sure if that would work. In
get
general, though, like we got to keep in mind the Raptors aren't the only team that are going to be pursuing Holmes, right? I'm sure they're getting calls about Holmes from like 20 teams now.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, even like Golden State, etc. Like there are plenty of teams that can use a rotation big for like who's on a decent salary and who's really good. Holmes is one of the better bigs in the league, and like I'm not afraid to say that. So I'm not sure if Birch gets it done. I don't even think.
But as we saw, the Kings did not let the league know that Tyrese Halliburton was available. So it's like, what are the Kings doing? Are they really targeting this leverage battle? Like probably not.
It doesn't feel like any of these trades. It feels like the GMs were too ashamed to go to other GMs to let them know that this was a potential trade. Because it doesn't feel like any GMs shopped around to the other 29 teams, be like, yo, we're trading Norm Powell. Like, you guys interested? It's just like, yeah. It didn't seem like they leveraged these trades to the best of their ability.
But either that or like the public, there's a massive disconnect between like what the public evaluates players as and what the league is evaluating players. Because this is like 3 consecutive trades where people were like completely shocked at the valuations. And I get that they're from organizations that have histories of like doing some weird shit, but I don't know, maybe we're just out of the loop. Maybe we know less than everyone else.
Well, that's a good segue into the next trade, which is the CJ McCollum trade. And I mean, I'll just say again, to me, this was deemed a lopsided trade on Twitter, but I again think both teams did pretty well here, especially considering the like Larry Nance edition, which people didn't really realize until 10 minutes after the details were out. So, Aiden, what did you think about this trade? Who won? I'll just say Blazers get Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nikhil, Didi Luzada, who I do not know. I'll be quite frank here. Okay, they get the Pelicans pick this year, 5 to 15 protected, so probably a good pick. 2 second-round picks, and the Pelicans get CJ, Nance, and Snell's expiring. Who won this one?
Kyle, name the country Didi Luzada is from.
So, okay, my working theory is Italian last name from Argentina.
He's Brazilian.
Oh, that makes sense. Though. I could see that.
So I'm going to answer what I think about this trade, which is that I think the Pelicans are like, I'm interested if this means that Zion's returning, because this is obviously like a win now move. They're starting to turn it around a little bit in terms of like winning without Zion. So maybe that's part of this, and the ownership wants to see some more W's. I think the Blazers fucked up here by putting Larry Nance also in the trade. I think it seemed to me that CJ McCollum's contract was quite large and might have been harder to trade than we think. And so, especially for young guys and not taking back a bigger contract that's longer term, vis-a-vis like a Tobias Harris or something. So in that sense, I get that McCollum was of less value. I'm still surprised that Nance in and of himself couldn't have gotten like something on its own of a little bit more value. But I'm with you, Oren. I think like if the Pelicans want to do this and they want to bring on CJ McCollum, obviously they do. It's like maybe not what I would be doing, but because they want to, I think it's a pretty balanced trade.
Yeah, my thing is like the Blazers have 2 times now that have included Covington and Nance, who are like these versatile, like wing tweener type players that everyone in the league wants. They're just throwing them into trades as salary filler. Like, what are you guys doing? These are players that should warrant like protected first round picks on their own to teams that you can get. So, like, I just don't understand what they're doing. Even without Nance, though, was this CJ's market? I don't think he's like. I get that it's a big salary, but there again plenty of teams that are essentially capped out anyway for the entirety of his contract, stuck in like agreements with other players. Maybe I'm higher on CJ because he's like sort of press friendly and he's a nice guy and he has a podcast, etc. But like, I think he's a good player. I think he's going to do really well in New Orleans, and I think he fits well with Zion. I kind of love this for the Pelicans.
Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Well, the reason I like this, or I don't mind it at least for the Blazers, is because I thought, like everyone thought, that they should trade CJ in the offseason, right? They trade for Norm. It didn't work. You have to adjust. You have to get a wing in there. So I thought trading CJ was an obvious answer. Try to see what the Norm Dame backcourt looks like with a wing in CJ's place. Instead, they kept him, and then it worked just about as bad as anyone could have hoped. And then he had this heart issue, right?
No, he
punctured
his
lung, right? A collapsed lung. So another organ issue, but like to me that was like, oh god, they messed up. CJ's trade value really has taken a fall since when they should have dealt him in the offseason. And then this trade kind of shows that that's not necessarily true, because okay, Larry Nance went for a protected first round pick a year ago. So if you say that he's going for the same thing this year, then you're getting Josh Hart, Nikhil Alexander, and 2 second-round picks for CJ. I think that's about what I like. Josh Hart's a good player. Nikhil's a really good flyer. 2 second-round picks for CJ. That sounds right to me. So I don't really dislike it from anyone's
but
perspective.
You have a raging boner for Nikhil Walker-Alexander.
I have a boner for a lot of people.
I'm just saying it might inflate how you feel about this trade, but yeah,
I also like Josh Hart quite a bit, though.
Yeah, I do think the trade itself is whatever, but you highlighted the bigger problem here, which is that Portland didn't recognize that they needed to adapt more quickly, and their real mistakes were bringing on Covington. I think that was like kind of the transition moment. It's like you needed to bring in a versatile 3. They brought in a slow 4. Nance was redundant. They didn't play Nance the way they should have with pairing him by Nurkic just doesn't make sense. And so it's just like it's poor management. Like I think they blew a window that they had when, like you said, McCollum was at optimal value, and they really could have made this team more dynamic around Dame. So it's a shame.
Yeah, Kyle, any
Absolutely.
last thoughts on the CJ trade before we move on?
So I guess the combination of those two moves has freed up per Woj a ton of cap space for the Blazers. They're now interested in Jeremy Grant, which I don't really understand. You free up, like, why would you not just move Powell for Grant instead of, like, I don't know what assets they even have for Grant left. So they're kind of lost. But while we're on Grant, maybe we should move back to the East and we talk about Bradley Beal. Or, and if you want to bring up the news, I take it, season-ending surgery on his left wrist. What does this mean for Washington, Aiden?
Well, they're obviously shutting down. I think everybody's tradable except for like Hachimura, Avdi, and Kuzma. I think everybody else is. And the thing is that what's the backup center's name?
For who?
Oh, Thomas Bryant?
Who was formerly of the Bullets. Or I mean the Bulls.
Gafford?
Yeah, Gafford. I thought he would be a nice Raptor acquisition, and I thought Washington wouldn't do it because they're competing again like the Hawks.
He can't get traded.
Oh, he can't?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So never mind. But I do think, I mean, this basically makes Washington a seller, and really it's smart because there aren't that many sellers this trade deadline, and they have a lot of veteran pieces that could help teams, not named Montrezl Harrell. So I think it's advantageous for this to happen to Beal. It's unfortunate. I friggin' love Beal, but it's going to make for a spicier deadline. That's for sure.
Yeah, so out of the players on Washington that are eligible to be traded, because Gafford, I think he either signed an extension or because he got traded. For some reason, I think he's either poison pilled or he just can't get traded before the deadline. I'm pretty sure he can't until the offseason. But out of the guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, KCP, Kyle Kuzma, if he's available, probably a little more expensive. Or Thomas Bryant, is there, or Montrezl Harrell, even if you're a Montrez guy. I'm not sure any of you are. Who Kyle would you like to see the Raptors go out after from Washington?
Yeah, I kind of like Kuzma. I'm not sure what the price would be, but I think he fits the mold of like a Raptors player. I'm not sure what it would take. But I'm on board with Kuzma. I like him as just like a guy too. He seems like an interesting character, and he seems like the type of guy who would fit in well in Toronto. I mean, it's a young city. I think he actually still has some. I know he's a little bit older. I think he still has potential to improve, and he's under contract for next 3 years. So I'm all in on. He makes 13 mils, so it'd have to be like Dragic. Maybe plus. I'm not sure what the Wizards cap situation is, but. Like it would have to be, I guess, Kuzma plus another asset to absorb Dragic, maybe a first-round pick. I'm not sure, but I'm on board with Kuzma.
Aiden, between Kyle Kuzma and Gary Trent Jr., if they were both Raptors, who would be the more outrageous dressed person?
Well, Trent Jr. would be the sexiest. Kuzma would probably be the most outrageous. I thought about KCP and Raul Neto as a little package just to build out our roster, but I don't think we would need a third team because, like you said, Kyle Kuzma's 13 mil, so is KCP. Neto's only 1.7, so it's like that actually highlights an issue that Toronto has, which some teams do face, and which is why signing these mid-tier contracts can be really important. Is we have a lot of really low-end contracts and one super high-end. And then we have Boucher and Birch, and I don't think we don't really want to trade Boucher and Birch. I don't know how many people want to take him, so we're a little bit hamstringed that way as far as like making these kind of like mid-level moves to build out our depth.
Yeah. Before we move on to a couple listener questions and then get out of here, I want to circle back to Spencer Dinwiddie because he's fascinating to me. at the beginning of the season, in the offseason, I wanted the Raptors to go after him. At the beginning of the season, I said I wish they had went after him. But then he's really like tailed off this season to the point where I'm not sure if I actually want the Raptors to give up anything to take on his 3-year contract, because he is another injury liability guy who just hasn't been very good this season. What about where are you guys at with Spencer Dinwiddie? Like, do you want a guy like that who has the ball in his hands and obviously is then taking it out of Fred and Pascal's hands, but at the same time can really initiate an offense when and just give you another ball handler when the Raptors could use that? Is that someone you guys would want, Kyle?
No, I think the same reason I don't want Dinwiddie is because I didn't want LeVert either, and it's ironic that they played together in Brooklyn, like two guys that I'm just not in on at all. I'm really out on Dinwiddie. Again, ball dominant, needs the ball, not a good shooter, not an excellent defender. I mean, he's like solid defensively, but not an excellent defender. Not tremendously athletic, not tremendously fun beyond basketball. So like, there's almost nothing appealing about Dinwiddie to me.
Not an NFT guy. Kyle Brickman, not an NFT guy.
You're not into the crypto contracts?
Well, he also did, like, he had, when players in the bubble, like, putting social justice messages on the back of his jersey, he did, like, some, like, national debt thing, which is, like, why is that even a concern of yours? Like, we don't have to get into that, but it was just weird. Like, it was, why, like, this isn't even the time. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know.
When people say like, but the province is so in debt or the country's so in debt, I just say, you must be a really boring person to have drinks with. Like, I am not interested in having this conversation with you.
Voting,
that's an aside.
Voting for people who you think are going to balance the budget is, to me, the dumbest motivation ever. It's just like, the budget's never going to be balanced. We're always going to be in debt. Move on. Okay, sorry.
Beyond that, like, on the back of the jersey too, last name national debt. Like, come on. That's your passion.
Dinwiddie is exactly the prototype. I disagree with Kyle. He's exactly the prototype the Raptors need coming off the bench. He's a big combo guard who can bring the ball up. He can pair with Freddie. He can pair with Gary. And he can create his own shot, which is like, we have literally none of that off of our bench. The problem is you go down in the last 10 games, 1 for 5, 3 for 11, 1 for 12, 2 for 10, 3 for 10, 4 for 16.
Oh my God.
2 for 9, 1 for 5, 2 for 6. He's playing like total fucking garbage.
But this is what I was going to say when you said he's the perfect guy off the bench. He does have a lot of qualities that are good, but the shooting is not good.
No,
you would be adding another non-shooter.
It has been though. And so it's like, I'm not saying we trade for him. I'm just saying, like, in the abstract, he fits the mold in which we want. 3 games ago, he was 4 for 16, but he had 14 points, 10 assists, and 12 rebounds. So it's like, he can be the guy that provides those 15 minutes where we need to get the rest, and you can rely on him. He's proven in big moments that he can shine. The question is does he have any of that juice left? And I don't know.
Yeah, so me and Samson Folk, our friend from Raptors Republic, we talked about Dinwiddie early in the season and just said, as a guy who can initiate an offense, get past his man, touch the paint, pass it out, like, he's a nice player and he would help the Raptors. But I don't know where Samson's at least me, the more I've seen Fred do that this season, right, compared to the beginning of the season, like, Fred is a different player. So the more I've seen Fred do that, the less that need has become a need for the Raptors, right? Fred has filled such a big void being able to initiate an offense in a way he just wasn't earlier in the season. And so given the contract, the length of it, the money of it, I'm just not sure that Dinwiddie is a guy that the Raptors would go after. What would you guys give me your mustache and beard for? 2 second-round picks, or would you guys give it up for like a lottery protected first? Who can I get for less?
I would give my beard up for a free slice of pizza.
Damn, it grows back quick, eh?
Oh yeah, it's like 3 days. I'm back in business.
Yeah, mine is not only, my facial hair is not only very young, but also it's like, it does not grow back quickly, so it's pretty high value. I gotta say, like, we're talking like multiple years of picks and swaps. Like, we're gonna have to like really talk about. So I don't know.
I'm out. I
Yeah,
can
let's-
grow my own beard. Thank you very much. I'll have you know.
Let's do a couple and then get GTFO.
Yeah, so okay, here's a question from the audience. Did you guys watch the presser? Do you have any thoughts on it?
No. Give us the
Oh.
Cole's notes.
He didn't answer a lot of questions like in detail, you know. He didn't really give away anything. But like I said, he said they're not opposed to getting a center, like they're open to different ways of building a team. He said that they're open to taking on long-term money. He said that ownership or COVID hasn't affected revenues or ownership, I guess, to the point where it's changed their deadline approach at all. He said it's just as if any normal because they have rich owners. So that's not going to affect them. What else did he say? He said that it won't likely be a big move because of how well the group is playing. They don't want to shake anything up too much. They want to add to it, but he does not. It doesn't sound like it's a huge move coming for the Raptors.
Did he I missed that part. Did he mention anything about the tax? Like, are they trying to stay below it? I guess they wouldn't say
Actually,
that.
no one asked. That's a really good question that should have been asked, but I think it's safe to assume they want to stay under the tax.
That's a juicy amount of money.
My interpretation of the press conference was like our core 7 guys are staying here. Nothing's going to be shaken up, but you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Like if no GM goes out and says like everyone's gone, they're all gone, we're trading everyone, we're looking to offload everyone right now. Like no one, even when they want to do that, they don't say anything. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think the starting 5 for sure is staying put. I would not be shocked to like he was asked about Boucher and Precious and he said nice things about both of those players, but he didn't make it sound like they were absolutely surely going to stay. Whereas the starting 5, he I think was a little bit more indicating that yeah, those 5, it doesn't look like we're going to break that up right now.
So there were 2 questions here that kind of one was asking about Tristan Thompson being bought out, and I categorize him as a large old school center.
Big and
Such-
large. Not only big,
and
but
problematic. We
and
cannot forget
problematic,
that. Toxic
and
over there.
unfaithful, and apparently a locker room presence trouble at times. So take all of that with a grain of salt. But I looked at Robin Lopez. He's another one of those contracts where the Raptors can't really acquire it in and of itself. It would have to be paired with something else. Just like obviously we're not going to trade.
No,
Boucher.
let's say they buy him out. Let's assume that.
Oh, I see. Okay, I would love to have Rolo on this team. I mean, there's a lot of animosity between him and the Raptor that would have to get worked out, you know, behind the scenes. But I think it could work out for both parties.
Yeah, I think I'm 100% in on like pursuing a guy like Rolo in the buyout market if the Raptors don't make a move for a center. Like that's probably the right call. But I'm not down to give up any assets for Tristan Thompson and a Rolo. Like people, if the thinking is like, well, he'll only play in a series against Embiid or something. The Raptors are good enough at orchestrating double teams, etc. Like I don't want Robin Lopez playing against Embiid. He's not an Embiid stopper anyway. He's just big and large.
Have you guys seen his shot? It is literally unstoppable. He'd be actually a good mentor for Scotty, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thing with these guys that you're mentioning are I would like the Raptors to have a third big because they got killed in the games where Precious and Kem were both out early in the season and they just didn't have anyone who could rebound and run to the rim. So I want them to have a cheap third big in a buyout situation. I would be open to either of those guys, but neither of them is playing, in my opinion, over what we have right now, unless there was injuries. Like I think Precious, Boucher, Kem, take your pick, are playing above Lopez and a guy like Tristan Thompson in the Raptors system, especially given like the chemistry they've built over this time.
This is a great question. We're not going to address this now, but I think worth bringing it up because we're going to head out here, but worth bringing up either tomorrow night or Thursday when we do our live trade deadline show, because this is like a good little thesis, a good vessel for discussion. But like I said, we got to head out.
Yeah. So once again, as I said at the beginning, in case anyone missed it, we did a big Raptors preview show, 2-hour show about all the trades we want to see them make, all the possibilities. I'm dropping the link in the comments right now. Head over to Raptors Republic YouTube and subscribe and like this video to keep up to date with us, because we go live after every Raptors game, and we also do these shows once in a while, these specials, and we're going to do another special, like Kyle alluded to, at 2 p.m. on trade deadline day. I'm going to write that down. 2 p.m. Feb 10th. We are going to go live on
Thursday.
YouTube. Yeah,
That's Thursday for you guys who can't count out there. I know there's a lot of Raptors Republic viewers who can't count.
I don't do dates.
Yeah, so we're gonna react to all the live trades that happen in that last hour, because that's usually when all the little trades happen, and react to what the Raptors do or don't do. So tune in then. Other than that, this for Kyle, for Aiden, for myself, Oren, thanks so much for tuning in at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday. We know everyone who watched this video is in fact unemployed or a blogger, and we've taken down your information. We've put it in the spreadsheet already. We have
And we
everything.
love you.
We have everything we know. You'll be
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club. Exactly. You'll be receiving something in the mail. Won't say what, but thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back tomorrow night, actually, after the Raptors take on the OKC Thunder. All right. Good night.